Hello! In the following video, you will be introduced to the concept of effective feedback and an example that you can adapt to the context of ESL teaching in rural areas. Have you ever asked yourself if your students are actually learning? Do you provide comments about their performance and how they are reaching the learning goals? Due to several classroom issues, such as lack of time or overcrowding, it can be difficult to give feedback to our learners. Therefore, students do not learn as they should. How can we provide effective feedback to our learners? Let's take a look at what experts and researchers say. What is feedback? It is the information provided by an agent regarding aspects of one's performance or understanding. What do we understand as effective feedback? First of all, feedback is effective when it consists of information about someone's progress and about how to proceed. Furthermore, effective feedback is concrete, specific, and useful. Additionally, it is more effective when it provides information on correct rather than incorrect responses. How can we give effective feedback? First, teachers need to make appropriate judgments about when, how, and at what level to provide appropriate feedback. It is important to identify the types of feedback a teacher can usually provide to the learners. Three common types of feedback are verbal feedback, visual feedback, and written feedback. Verbal feedback is easy to give, and teachers can include it at any stage of the lesson. Example: that was a very good description of the food you like. Your pronunciation was quite accurate. However, you should pay attention when you use is and are. You are confusing them. Visual feedback. This feedback can come in two forms. The first is any expression or gesture you use with or without verbal feedback that indicates how students are doing in class, such as body language. The other form is related to visual aids, such as stickers, flashcards, charts, among others, which reflect students' level of accomplishment. This type of visual feedback can also accompany written evaluations. Written feedback. This type of feedback is quite useful to point out what students did well and what areas they still need to work on. Although it is more time-consuming, it is the most complete form of feedback, for you can include several categories at once. Written feedback can also come in the form of rubrics or tests when assessing students' performances in tasks, contents, or language activities. In order to give effective and appropriate feedback, teachers need to have in mind that feedback should be prompt, closely following the event, contain encouragement, be specific about why something was good or was not up to the standard and what the student can do about it. Not focus on too many different aspects at the same time and be unambiguous and clear. Let's review some tips for giving feedback. Make sure that you have frequent opportunities to speak to each student individually to provide personal feedback. Try to involve the students in self-assessment so that they can set their own goals. Start by giving the class some positive feedback on what learners have achieved. Set individual, short mini-meetings with your students and use learner diaries. Finally, you should not be afraid of using Spanish if necessary. Students need to fully understand the feedback you give them. Let's see an example of how and what feedback you can provide while and after a role-play activity with 11th graders. Before students start preparing their role-play, make them write a list of goals they expect to achieve with this task. While the students prepare and practice their role-play, give them oral feedback in aspects such as grammar or pronunciation. Design an analytic rubric for assessment. It provides accurate feedback for the different criteria you may include in the tasks. After students present their role plays, give them brief oral feedback about their strengths in their performances. Leave mistakes aside in order to avoid students' discouragement. Ask your students to give oral feedback to their peers. Sometimes this feedback may be even more meaningful to them. Make learners read and assess their list of goals to see if they met them after the role play. Try to give timely written feedback along with an analytic rubric stating what was good in the students' performances and the areas they need to work on. If your aim is to give effective feedback to your students, let's take a look at some key points to achieve this. Giving constructive feedback to a student is very important, as learners need to feel that they are making progress. Feedback always requires having a goal. It is essential for you and your students that everyone knows what they are expected to achieve and how they will achieve it. It is preferable that feedback focuses on the strong areas in a student's performances rather than only the incorrect. Be concrete in your feedback and avoid ambiguity. Students need to be clear about what they are being told, because it is their learning that is at stake. Try to provide all types of feedback as long as it is possible, appropriate, and doable. The more information your students receive about their performances, the better.